Thanks, John. Thank you very much. And it's great to be back. And I've been enjoyed coming to Spokane for a while with KSPS during pledge time. And it's fun to drop by the campus here and share some ideas about travel with you. A lot of times when I give talks, as I have for the last 30 years, I'll talk about budget skills. You know, how do you pack light? How do you catch the train? What about a B&B or a youth hostel, this sort of thing. And when I look back on 30 years of teaching, you know, I wrote my first book in 1980. It was Europe Through the Back Door. It could have been called European Travel Cheap. And the whole thing was just how do you stretch your budget? And that was my thing. And then the next decade, the 90s, I was all about, I wrote a book called Europe 101, History and Art for Travelers. And it was all about appreciating art and culture and cuisine and the fine wine and all the beautiful things that you'll experience in Europe. And then in the last decade, my passion for teaching has been how do we broaden our perspectives through travel. I wrote this book, Europe as a Political Act. So I didn't have a big plan, but when you think about it, it was first Europe Through the Back Door, budget skills, then Europe 101, appreciate the history and the art, and then travel as a political act, how to broaden your perspective to bring home that souvenir of a world viewpoint. And you've probably all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, where first you cover your basic things, and then you get more self-fulfillment and altruism and so on. It's the same kind of evolution, I think. And I want to talk tonight about that ultimate sort of prize. How do we broaden our perspective through travel? And wherever you're traveling, this can be your challenge and your goal. The choice is yours. A year ago today, I was in, well, not today, but a year ago for Christmas and New Year's, I was in El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Mexico City. Not because they're comfortable places to travel, but because I had an opportunity to go down there and just check out what's happening. And with the proper, or with the unique kind of perspective, that's a big joy, and I want to talk about that. I've spent a third of my adult life, 4 months a year for the last 30 years, living out of a 9 by 22 by 14 inch carry-on the airplane sized suitcase. And when I look back on it, it's been time and money very well spent. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love the opportunity to go experience our world. Now, as a travel writer, my goal is to bring home the magic and help people, you know, inspire people and equip people so they can go over there and really have the most rewarding trip. And there's a lot of dimensions to travel that can be magic. You can gain an appreciation of nature. We've got wonderful nature here. The cool thing about Europe's nature, and my beat really is Europe, so a lot of my anecdotes come from Europe. The great thing about experiencing and enjoying nature in Europe is it's so accessible. I mean, these people look pretty rugged, but they rode the lift up for breakfast. All right, there's a revolving restaurant on top of the mountain. Now, my idea of a good day in Switzerland is to ride the lift up for breakfast, get to the top without any sweat, it's still early in the morning, and then spend 3 or 4 hours walking on a ridge like that, like tight roping on a ridge. On one side, you got lakes stretching all the way to Germany. On the other side, you got the most incredible alpine panorama anywhere, the Eigermonken Jungfrau. And ahead of you, you hear the long legato tones of an Alp horn announcing that the helicopter-stocked mountain hut is open, it's just around the corner, and the coffee schnapps is on, all right? See, that's a beautiful experience. And it, you know, in many, many ways when you travel, you just gain an appreciation for this beautiful world that we call home. Also, when you travel, you gain an appreciation for culture. Now, for 25 years, I was a tour guide, and I found that a lot of my tourists, my American tourists, were subconsciously anyways, offended by somebody who was enthusiastic about something they didn't know you could be enthusiastic about. It was like, are you telling me you're better than us? Are you saying I'm a bumpkin? Now, when I go to Europe, I've always just felt like it's show and tell, and it's their turn. You remember in 3rd grade, show and tell? That kid's not better, he just got a new toy and he's showing it to you, right? Well, they're not better, they just are evangelical about cheese. I was raised thinking cheese is no big deal. It's orange and the shape of the bread. Sandwich. And then you go into these cheese shops in Paris and it's like a festival of mold. There's a different cheese for every day of the year. And I don't know if you saw our show, but I love it when a friend of mine in Paris who runs a restaurant, she takes me shopping in the morning. And we go into this cheese shop, and she picks up a moldy wad of goat cheese and takes a deep whiff. Rick, smell this cheese. It smells like the feet of angels. She thinks stinky cheese smells like the feet of angels. All right. Now, you can either be turned on by that, or you can go, well, to each his own, you know. But you go home and at least you realize some people are really into the art of cheese. That's a beautiful thing. A great thing about travel is it makes history real. I got a degree at the University of Washington in European history accidentally. I had gone to so much Europe, and I just loved to go to classes in school and learn about all this stuff. And I woke up in the dorm one morning, I remembered it. So I've got 7 classes under my belt for history, 3 more classes, and I'm a historian. Let's just finish it off, you know. But history for me was just fun because we're part of it. It's a fascinating story. It makes things more meaningful. It explains things. So much of what's going on in our country today, a historian can go, well, yeah, that's what happens when this is there and that's that. I mean, look what happened over there and back then over there. It's very nice to be connected with the past so you understand the present and you can kind of see where we're going. And a good example of that history when you're in Europe, and this is something I remind my tourists when I'm a tour guide, it's happening today. It's all around us. We're lucky to be there. Open your eyes to it. I was in Berlin on the opening day of their new Reichstag building. Now this is the historic Parliament building. Think our Congress. Bombed out in World War II. Imagine the last days of World War II were fought on the rooftop of this thing with communists fighting Nazis. On the rooftop of their Capitol building. And then it was a bombed out hulk just left in no man's land on the Berlin Wall. And then finally the Cold War is over. Germany is united again. The capital goes from Bonn back to Berlin. They need a new Capitol building. What do? Well, they don't bulldoze the bombed out building in good European style. They renovate the building with historical roots. They incorporate a modern element into that, a beautiful glass dome. It's open all the time, it's free, it's designed for locals, but tourists are more than welcome to walk up that spiral ramp to get to the very top. And then it's powerful architectural symbolism because this is designed so you can literally, the citizens are there to look over the shoulders of their legislators as they're working. The Germans have been really jerked around by their politicians a lot in the last century, and they've decided with this to make a strong statement that you guys are our employees. You're working for us. We're going to keep an eye on you, you see. Now, I was up there on top of that building on opening day surrounded by teary-eyed Germans. Anytime you're surrounded by teary-eyed Germans, something exceptional is going on. And it occurred to me, wow, this is the exciting day for all of these people. Many of those teary eyes old enough to remember when Berlin was bombed flat in the late 40s. Exciting day, symbolic with the opening of this building, the symbolic closing of an ugly chapter in the history of a great nation. No more division, no more communism, no more fascism, a new Capitol building, starting a new century, looking into a promising future. Wow, that was exciting. I get excited just talking about it. And I was surrounded by other Americans up there, and I looked around and not one of the Americans was touched by it. They were clueless. And it saddened me. I just thought, I'm living in a dumbed-down society. These people have been trained not to be engaged, not to be moved, not to be expecting a lot of themselves. And I just thought, you know, there's powerful forces in our society that would find it convenient, I believe, if we're all just dumbed down. Just mindless producer consumers. There's a war going on, just go shopping, it'll be okay. We'll make the decisions, you know. And I thought, no, anytime somebody tells me to just go shopping, red flags are going to go up. And I vowed then and there in my own little world as a travel writer to expect my readers, my viewers, my tourists to be engaged. To expect them to be smart. You make more money if you expect them to be dumb, especially in tourism. But I want them to be smart. And it just feels good to be engaged. All of us in our own realms cannot put up with dumbing down of our electorate, okay? I think that's really important. And when you travel, I think you can embrace that.